Congress has exposed the Pentagon as funding military research in China. Just why is our tax dollars going to make the Chinese military bigger and stronger? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's take a look at this weird story. Now, this is one of those stories that could have dropped any time in the last year because this reflects a fundamental problem with the American relationship to China and the CCP. And this is according to a House GOP report where they describe over a 2-year period, the Pentagon funded hundreds of projects in collaboration with universities inside China and institutes linked to the Chinese military, including blacklisted entities that the U.S. government is prohibited from working with because they're so closely associated with the Chinese. And this, right? Remember, you may recall that the Chinese military and the U.S. are in a tech rivalry. And in fact, the America's most advanced home AI chips are prohibited for sale in China, or at least they were, because they're so powerful and AI could be such an effective tool for military dominance. And again, the quote from the report, failing to safeguard American research from hostile foreign exploitation will continue to erode U.S. technological dominance and place our national defense capabilities at risk, right? And what exactly does it say happened? Now, some officials at the DoD argued research should remain open as long as it's neither controlled nor classified. But I think this is sort of, even that's hard to kind of believe because, again, you don't find out whether research has military applications until after it's complete, right? And yeah, you also, what you don't want to do is hand China the first 4 building blocks of that next weapon system, that next AI capability. And so, again, the report makes a bunch of recommendations to scale back U.S. research in collaboration with China, and it would prohibit Defense Department funding from going to projects done in collaboration with researchers affiliated with Chinese entities. Now, Chinese embassy is like, that's groundless. We oppose it. But here's what I want to point out. How many Chinese tax dollars fund U.S. projects? How many Chinese tax dollars get spent here to fund research projects? Like, it's a real question. Do any Chinese tax dollars come here to fund? No, of course not. Right? And this is the problem, is that if it were simple collaboration on harmless technologies, then you would see an equal amount get pumped from China into the U.S. But that's not what happens, right? Now, there's a bunch of programs, partnerships between U.S. and Chinese universities. Hundreds of $millions in federal funding have helped Beijing develop critical technology. And I'm a believer that, listen, when it comes to things like cancer research, improved energy, things with obvious civilian applications, good. I say great, collaborate. We're happy to do so. Right? Even during the Cold War, we collaborated with the Soviet Union on certain specific research projects that were unlikely to have military applications. But what we didn't do in the Cold War is give Soviet researchers our tax dollars. And we did that with the Chinese 1,400 times. 1,400 papers published between between 2023 and 2025 acknowledged support from the Pentagon and were done in collaboration with Chinese partners, including 700 defense grants worth more than $2.5 billion. Of the 14,000 publications, half involved organizations affiliated with Chinese defense research and industrial base. Now, to understand this, you have to understand the Chinese strategy here. The Chinese do not operate the way that the U.S. does, where we say, listen, over here is our Defense Department with taxpayer-funded research, and over here is our civilian sector, which builds iPhones and makes fucking dog shit apps, right? To the Chinese, everything could be a national security thing, right? Chinese tech dominance, dominating in electric car manufacture, dominating in web services or tech. Those things are as important to Chinese national security as the literal Chinese militaries, like having the most sophisticated tanks and drones. So the Chinese have a holistic view of their dominance, right? And the U.S., we don't. We have been essentially, for lack of a better term, since the collapse of the Soviet Union, for the last 30 years, we've been lulled into essentially a false sense of security, sense that it's not a problem to bring Chinese researchers into the United States, educate them, train them, show them the most advanced and cutting edge research funded by your and my tax dollars. And then they go back to China where they take that research and they allow Chinese manufacturing, Chinese technology, Chinese defense and intelligence agencies to move rapidly to parity. This has gone on for 25 years, and every year the US goes, man, wow, how did China catch up? And they say it's because of sweeping industrial espionage. But the industrial espionage is not sufficient. You can't just, right? If you handed me the plans to the F-35, I couldn't do anything with it because I don't have the capacity or the literal technical skill to understand it or interpret it. And so the Chinese have managed to get, yes, using hackers and industrial espionage techniques, managed to steal American defense and manufacturing technology from American companies, but also they managed to not even steal it. America handed them the expertise to build out American competitive companies, right? American, again, technological, private and public sector competition. And imagine if this was a Cold War, if this was the Cold War, we would never let Soviet scientists attend American universities. It'd be preposterous. We'd let our allies attend American universities at best. And so the fact that we have all of these American scientists, ultimately, okay, here's an example, right? Pentagon-backed project, ASU and UT partnered with researchers from 2 other Beijing universities to study high-stakes decision-making in uncertain environments, which obviously has direct applications for electronic warfare and cyber defense, right? Because, well, if you can understand how choices are made in a predictable fashion, blah, blah, blah. Money came from the Office of Naval Research, Army Research Office, and NASA. What? You mean to tell me that in the entire United States of America, with all of our internationally recognized research universities, you couldn't find 2 universities in addition to ASU and UT to partner with? You had to go to the Chinese to do it? Does that really? American taxpayers paid Chinese researchers to improve the decision-making and capabilities of Chinese electronic warfare? And again, I'm not some anti-immigrant blowhard, but there's a problem. You see, it's this: China's national intelligence law compels all organizations and citizens to support and collaborate with intelligence gathering efforts, providing a legal framework for Chinese intelligence agencies to access data and gather information. The law obligates individuals and businesses to assist intelligence work, protected secrets, and comply with agency demands. So there is no Chinese national that attends an American university that will be prohibited from sharing that information with the Chinese intelligence. That's it. So you can't sit there, as the Trump administration says, and say, our priority is competing with China. And guess what? That's not a bad argument to say China's an emerging superpower. They share very few of our values, right? We believe in free press, individual freedom, Bill of Rights, the democracy, right? The leaders of a country should be drawn from and elected from the citizens of that country. China doesn't share any of those beliefs. Total surveillance, absolute dictatorship, and expressly, China says, we want to assert dominance and replace the United States. So if all of that is true, and we have to win this competition with China, hear me out, maybe we should let American researchers do our military research. Maybe our tax dollars should go to employ American researchers. Or maybe, hear me out, pay PhD researchers more than $36,000 a year. Maybe if you paid them more money, that there'd be more STEM researchers to, make our country more ready to fight and win wars in the 21st century. Because again, for all the liberal glad-handing that takes place in the world, we live in a world of threats. Russia, if Vladimir Putin could press a button and destroy the United States and he thought there would be no consequences for Russia, he would do it. Just like Xi Jinping would do the same thing. If he thought it would enrich China to destroy the United States and he wouldn't face consequences, he would do it. Because these countries are interested solely in benefiting not even themselves, but their own personal inner circles. And they want to see the Western world, they want to see it destroyed and replaced with autocracies. I don't know. This isn't my opinion. This is their own statements. And they couch it. They say words like, we're going to build a multipolar world or a new security architecture, right? That isn't Atlanticists. What else do you want to do? Like, if you think, I don't know, human rights are worth defending, then you have to stop enabling the enemies of human rights to function. But again, it's easier. These are hard decisions. These are decisions that universities don't want to make, but they have to be made in the interest of the country. And that is the hardest sell at this point, because it means that universities would take a short-term loss. They wouldn't be able to charge full tuition to the Chinese. They'd have to shoulder more of the burden of the research themselves. They'd have to build new labs. I mean, right, our tax dollars would have to go to doing things like creating highly skilled jobs and building advanced research labs. We'd have to expand our universities, maybe even expand our freshman classes, give more slots to American students and fewer slots to full-paying Chinese students. And maybe that would require more tax dollars, right? That would be obviously an unacceptable tragedy, just beyond the pale for this country to do. If you wonder where I get the energy to stream like this every day and also run triathlons and ultra marathons as I did literally last week, you know that my secret weapon is Strike Gum. It's veteran-owned, made in the USA, and sugar-free. It's got an energy drink's worth of caffeine in every single piece. So we're also having a buy one, get one on all single packs. So check it out at strikegum.com. And of course, as always, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, guys. Wow, that was a lot. That was a lot of videos. Huge thank you to, we just saw somebody join, get a membership. Thank you, Chris Hogfist. Appreciate you. Anyway, guys, I got to get out of here, man. This has been a really fun video. I really appreciate you joining me, but I got to eat lunch, man. It is 1 o'clock here, so I'll see you. See you in the next video. See you probably tomorrow. Cheers.